Hi again, Gregg of the News Tribune here at CenturyLink Field in Seattle after the Seahawks fall short 25-17. They lose to the Chargers. They lost because they lost their recipe of winning for the last month. On defense, it was stopping the run, making teams one-dimensional and getting after and affecting quarterbacks, if not sacking them, forcing them into early throws and turnovers. And on offense, it's running Chris Carson early, middle, and late, making it play-action passing, giving Russell Wilson an efficient passing game that didn't have to throw on every down, staying on, quote, schedule, on down and distance. The Seahawks did none of that today. They lost Carson after 8 carries and 40 yards in the first half after he looked great on the first drive. A 15-yard carry to start the game. The Seahawks go on a 13-play drive, 9 of them run, score a touchdown. It looks like the continuation of the win over Detroit last week, the win over Oakland and London 3 weeks ago. And then Carson got hurt. He injured his groin hip area that's been bothering him for a couple weeks. Pete Carroll said it tightened up on Carson. He couldn't go back in. Mike Davis came back in, ended up getting 62 yards on 15 carries, but there is no mistaking that Chris Carson runs differently than anybody on the Seahawks roster. Just so decisive, powerful, running through tacklers, reading off blocks. And then on top of that, the Seahawks' best run blocker, DJ Fluker, the massive road-grading right guard, he strained his calf in the second half. He left. Backup Joey Hunt came in. The backup center was playing right guard for Fluker, and let's just say Joey Hunt is not DJ Fluker in status and experience, in stature, experience, or performance. Those two factors made the Seahawks have to throw the ball. They were down 19-10 at the half. They threw most of the second half. They've tried to run in Mike Davis to keep the Chargers pass rush off of Wilson, but in the end, Wilson threw 39 times and got sacked 4 times. That's the most times he's been sacked since the dark days of Chicago and Denver, weeks 1 and 2 to begin the season. Those losses that the Seahawks were completely out of whack in play calling and run-pass ratio. So once the Seahawks fell behind, once they had to throw on every down, all of a sudden that offensive line at every analytics site and everybody says it's such a great pass-blocking group. Well, they're not as good at pass blockers when the other team knows they have to throw. And that's what happened today. Wilson was harried, he was under pressure, he threw a very wickedly poor decision pass, intercepted on the left side, returned for a touchdown that made it 25-10 with 7 minutes to go. All of that was not happening in the previous 4 games when they were running the ball so effectively with Carson. So Carson's hip groin issue sounds like it's going to be, it is, that sounds like, it's obviously proven to be more than just the 1 week it cost him the Arizona game September 30th. Here we are in the 1st of November and it's still bothering the lead back. 100-yard guy for 3 of the previous 4 games. The only exception was that Arizona game he missed. Gets hurt today, they lose. Now, of course, it wasn't that simple. Wilson rallied him. Nick Van that touchdown pass with a minute 50 left, and then you saw the last play. They get all in position, an improbable extended play because of a pass interference penalty against Tyler Lockett in the end zone on 4th down. Seahawks get on the 1-yard line. Then J.R. Sweezy false starts. I was watching the play through the binoculars. Sweezy was induced into that false start by the right side of the Chargers defensive line, who were simulating the snap count with their hands and with their head knob, and you can bet barking as well. Pete Carroll said he could see it and hear it from the sidelines as well. It wasn't called. Good risk reward for the Chargers, right? They get called for that. The penalty's on sportsmanlike conduct. That's half the distance to the goal line when you're on the 1-yard line. So you're at the half-yard line, nothing really lost. You don't get called for it. The other team jump false starts. Now all of a sudden the Seahawks are back at the 6 on that extended down drive. I think they were going to run the ball from the 1. They had Mike Davis offset in the shotgun formation. I think they were going to run a slant run and try to win it on the ground, and then they were back at the 6 and they had to throw. Wilson scrambled, extended the play, threw to David Moore right here in the back of the end zone. It looks like at first glance Moore drops it off his chest, right? Bangs right up between the 8 and the 3. Well, Adai, the safety for the Chargers, made a brilliant play. He was guarding Tyler Lockett about 5 yards ahead of where the intended receiver was in the back of the end zone. He was on the right side of Moore's left side, right side as Wilson was looking at him. He peeled off, Adai did, of Lockett, got his hand out, deflected the ball. A spiral pass turned into an end-over-end kickoff type of ball, and in a split second, Moore had to adjust to that. It looks like it clangs right off his chest without him moving his hands to it, but in fact his hands were set here and the ball went up here. No way, Jerron Brown was telling me after the game, no way a receiver really could have been expected to catch a pass like that. I mean, Jerry Rice obviously might not even have been able to make that play. So the Seahawks lose. Of course, they would have still had to have gotten the 2-point conversion after that to possibly send the game into overtime. Pete Carroll said after the game, I think we would have won the game had it gone to overtime. They had the momentum. Of course, he would think that. But he also talked about how they got off script of their recipe. That's why they lost. It's clear that this team will, for the final 8 games of the regular season, not do anything unless it runs the ball effectively on offense, and that starts with Chris Carson. So his health issues are starting to become more of a concern by the week if he can't finish the game because of this hip groin issue. And then on defense, they've got to stop the run inside to make teams throw the ball and then make the Seahawks know they're going to throw it and get a pass rush going. That's caused the turnovers. 16 takeaways going into today's game, second in the NFL on a +10 turnover margin. Today, the Seahawks defense gets 0 turnovers, and they lose. After the game, Bobby Wagner says, I think the turnovers help our offense, and we need it, and he's right. This team has such a thin margin of error between wins and losses. They're not a dominant, talent will win team as in the past years. So it's things like this recipe of staying on schedule by running the ball, setting up play action pass, and helping the pass protection, and then getting pressure on the quarterback and turnovers on defense. Lacking any of those components of that recipe, they're in trouble to win a game. And now they're going to the Los Angeles Rams next week. The Rams lost their first game of the season at New Orleans this Sunday. So they're now 8-1, but still 3 games up in the division, plus a win here in Seattle over the Seahawks for the lead in the NFC West. Seahawks have got to stay focused on the goal for making the playoffs through the wild card route. Carolina won, they're now 6-2. The Vikings won, they're 5-3-1. So the Seahawks are 2 games out of the first wild card, a game and a half out of the second. The good news for the Seahawks, they play both the Panthers November 25th, the Vikings here December 10th, and they need to be within a game of each for those games to matter enough to get back into playoff seeding. But first things first, getting back to the recipe that had got them wins in October, and that's running the ball, setting up the pass on offense, and getting after the quarterback and getting turnovers on defense. My coverage is online at thenewstribune.com right now, and on Twitter you can follow me at GBellSeattle. As always, thanks for watching.